The missing child is Lucia Blix, 9 years old.
Please, let her come back home safely.
Thursdays.
The kidnappers planned it meticulously.
If money is what it takes to get her back, we're going to pay it.
The secrets they hide
You can't talk about this. You can't write about it.
are the clues
The mother's hiding something, I know it.
to find her.
Tell me where she is.
The Stolen Girl. New episodes Thursdays. Stream on Hulu.
Okay, let's talk about Claude, the if you know AI assistant that's got everyone buzzing. Claude is like having a super smart, emotionally intelligent buddy in your pocket that responds like a real person would. Claude can help with just about anything, whether you need advice, inspiration, or even someone to help craft that perfect text to your crush. Claude can switch from being your life coach to your personal stylist to your side hustle strategist all in one conversation. Head to Claude.com, that's CLAUDE.com, and start chatting with Claude for free.
You can support this podcast at patreon.com/partnersincrimemedia.
I'm Rebecca Lavoie, and this is Crime Writers On. Crime Writers On is the original true crime review podcast that digs into true crime, pop culture, other podcasts. And on this episode, police are allowed to get around standard procedures by saying one thing: their info came from a confidential informant. But those claims can also lead to abuses and fabrications. We'll look into the corrupting influence of CIs on one Massachusetts community in the podcast Spotlight, Snitch City from the Boston Globe. Joining me to get that done and more is true crime author, TV journalist, and host of These Are Their Stories podcast, my husband and love of my life, the EP of this show, Kevin Flynn. Hi, Kevin.
All right, Rebecca, I want you to take that over again.
No.
Let's go to the top. You
Not
just said
doing
on the
it.
EP.
Not doing it.
All right, this time I just want you to put a little more zoom in the... Okay.
Nope. I also get the
all right.
final edit, by the way.
That's fine.
Also with us.
Then record it both ways.
Wait, is this a bit?
One for you, one for me.
Is this a bit we're going through?
Yes.
It's a bit.
Also with us.
Toby's like, this has kind of happened a couple of times.
Yeah.
So he's like, you want to emphasize
No,
this
Rebecca,
word.
you didn't say that right. And then he looks at the script and realizes he did write it that way.
The unedited crime of the week. You see, yeah.
Also with us is private investigator, certified pet detective, resident cat lady, and author of the Piper Green series of cozy mysteries, Laura Bricker. Hi, Laura.
Hey, Rebecca.
And finally, our resident doubting Thomas, author of the City trilogy of novels, host of Rip Current, Strange Arrivals, and our Patreon Deep Dive Book Club podcast host, Toby Ball. Hi, Toby.
Hey, Rebecca.
So, Kevin, This is Thursday's program.
Tis.
What's coming up on Monday's show?
On Monday, we're talking about the hot mystery series everybody's talking about on Netflix. It's called The Residents.
Ah.
It's kind of like Knives Out, but in the White House.
Yeah,
Oh,
it is.
okay.
It is. A little dollhouse White House.
Yeah.
Hey, Kevin, I have a quick question for you.
Yes.
I think that I want you to share this because I think it could be a tip for any other podcasters who might be listening. We have discovered in the last few years are like, sometimes when you write, you make a lot of like easy to fix errors, but
my
you don't
entire
see
life,
them.
I have like dropped a word or something like that, and my proofreading skills have always been very poor. I go over it and maybe too fast, or I just don't see stuff, and that's always sort of plagued me. I will tell you, quite literally, Laura Bricker. I one time went for an interview at the Union Leader newspaper.
Oh, God.
And I was given a writing test.
Oh.
So it was basically like, well, just write anything that you've recently done an article on. And I did this fantastic article, but it was riddled with like
small
errors, right? And so that's what they told me when they told me I wasn't given a job. This was the only time we didn't give somebody a job because of spelling errors or something like that.
Oh.
So what I've done the past couple of years, like to assist with my proofreading, which works for me, is I would use this on Microsoft Word, and I don't use Word anymore. I use a plugin on Google Documents, but to have it read aloud to me what I've written so I could hear it as I go through it. So if like a word is off and it's missing a gerund or I've dropped a word, it comes through a lot clearer. And it's not perfect for me, but it really has increased my accuracy.
Yeah.
And I don't. Why are you bringing this up now on the podcast?
I thought
you saw me doing this today.
Yeah, I saw you doing it today. I think it's a brilliant tip for people who don't write perfectly.
It's not for podcasters. It's for anybody.
It's for anybody.
Yeah.
But to pull back the curtain a little bit, you write the script for the show, the intros,
I write everything.
Clip,
yes.
the clip introductions. Like I write, everyone leaves their notes and I make up questions on the spot based on everybody's notes. But you write the structure of the show, and it's just been getting like cleaner and cleaner and cleaner. And I came into your office today and you were doing this, and I'm like, other people should know about this plugin. What's the plugin called? Do you know?
I think it's speech to text or text to speech or something like that. It was, one of those third market things that I think is giving my information to the Chinese government.
Yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to share that. Thank you, Kevin, for writing all the scripts for the show. I really appreciate it.
The more you know.
All right. Should we talk about the thing we are going to talk about? Speaking of newspaper journalists.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Leading off.
You motherfuckers don't rat on each other. If it's not good enough for you, it ain't good enough for my clients. So don't start telling my client what the hell he or she should do. They're not going to do what you don't do. Now shut the fuck up and leave me alone.
In the war on drugs, police rely heavily on confidential informants because citing a CI empowers them to use tactics with less oversight and fewer guardrails. But the practice is rife with abuse, allowing them to skirt civil liberties on the word of snitches who might not even exist.
We have permitted the practice to be so confidential and secretive with so few checks and balances. It is very, very rare, for example, for a judge to require a police officer to prove that the informant is reliable, that they actually said what they allegedly said, or even that they actually exist.
The problem is pronounced in the historic fishing town of New Bedford, Massachusetts. Investigative reporters have identified many instances where cops used the CI system to make dubious arrests, rip off dealers, and avoid accountability. It found that one of the biggest users of these shady tactics has long evaded culpability and today is the city's police chief.
And my investigation has found that Oliveira misused the CI system and, according to his colleagues, broke the law, paving the way for others to do the same.
From the Boston Globe's vaunted investigative unit, Spotlight, Snitch City uncovers the murky world of informant-based law enforcement and its history in one community. Host Dugan Arnett talks to former New Bedford officers and CIs about the misuse of the system. It also uncovers evidence of questionable behavior by Paul Oliveira, who built his career using snitches and is now head of the department.
That was written really well, by the way.
Spoiler alert, we're going to be talking about plot points from Snitch City. So if you want to remain spoiler-free, go to the estimated time code in our show notes for our thumbs up or thumbs down reviews. So Laura.
Yeah.
Journalism. What do you think of getting a podcast made by the Globe, not in partnership with Wondery, made by the Globe, featuring the reporting of the Spotlight team?
Yay. So like the Spotlight team, for those who aren't familiar, this is the team that uncovered the clergy sex abuse scandal in Boston when that first came to light.
What was the name of that movie?
Spotlight.
There you go.
Spotlight.
You're not saying it right. Spotlight. Yeah.
Academy Award-winning Best Picture Spotlight.
Yes. So we know I love when there's something that's got a journalism angle to it. And not only a journalism angle, but brought to you by an incredible investigative reporting team that has the chops. So I'm like, okay, right away, I'm like, New Bedford, that's an interesting place. That's an interesting city. One of my old editors went to go work at the paper there and tried to get me to go work for him. And I went down and I was like, I don't think I want to live in New Bedford. It's a gritty fishing community on the South Shore. So I'm psyched about that. And right off the bat, you're hearing the source building that has gone into this podcast right from the beginning, with CIs, with other people down on the docks, with people
boat owners.
Yeah. And you're like, oh, this is going to be a good story.
He says he's a cop, but he doesn't have no warrants.
The fisherman is telling the dispatcher that the guy on his boat claims he's a police officer.
So you think he's lying? He's not an officer? No, sir, but he does have a badge. He said he's a security or something.
I just want to give a shout out to the team behind this story. Kristen Nelson is the head of audio at the Boston Globe, and I met her and spoke with her at a podcast conference recently, and she's so brilliant. And Max Green, who also had a heavy hand in producing this podcast. Kevin, do you know where we know him from?
Max Green. That name's familiar.
He was the producer of I'm Not a Monster.
Oh, yeah. What about Kathleen Goldhar?
Oh, yeah, and Catherine Goldhar was also in the credits. Kathleen Goldhar was also in the credits from Do You Know Mordecai, one of my favorite all-time podcasts. Yeah, this is a great team that put this together. So, Toby, this is not a character-driven podcast. I mean, it is, because we meet a lot of characters who tell the story through their own voices and through their own experiences. So I don't want to say that it's not character-driven in that way, but it's not character-driven insofar as there isn't a main character the whole way through the podcast. Just looking at this more globally in this town. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it works well. I was thinking just while we were talking that maybe the main character is Massachusetts. This feels like about as Massachusetts a podcast as you're ever going to get.
Voiced by Ben Affleck.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's really, they've got a topic, which is confidential informants. And they kind of approach it from a bunch of different angles, from the cop angle, from the angle of different informants, sort of the corrupting influence it has on police, all these kinds of things. So where I think most podcasts we listen to, there's some through story, and maybe you're pulling in other things from outside to provide some context or some enrichment or whatever. In this case, it really is a whole bunch of different stories, but they're trying to build sort of like a full picture of this system of confidential informants and how it works and or doesn't work, I think in general and in New Bedford in particular.
Kevin?
Well, what? Do you want?
I wanted you to...
You wanted me to talk about my one critique?
Yeah.
You wanted me to come in with my one...
It's actually what we're talking about right now, so yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think like my critique would be like the individual stories of the CIs, the rogue cops, and like the chief don't always like fit together neatly. I mean, they are variations on the same theme in a single community, but the journalism like is unquestionably solid. It's just like the narrative transitions and the shifting points of view can be a little disorienting at first, but also, I mean, what I know is that episode 5 was very different the day episode 1 dropped. And so I don't know, like if, you could freeze time or whatever and go back and redo it. I don't know.
How do you know that?
Well, the Globe reached out to us, and said, would you like advance copy? I mean, because we have done Murder in Boston and other things like that.
Murder in Boston, by the way, also a brilliant podcast.
Yeah, fantastic. And, it's like, okay, yeah, the thing was like, sure, we'll do that. Get us the advance copy so that we can be very timely with our review. And then it didn't happen. And it was because the investigation continued to evolve. And we should talk maybe a little more about the reactions and the fallout from the investigation, but that's another great sign. It's like, a lot of podcasts, true crime podcasts, go to publication with this whole thing about if you have any information, help us out, because what I'm really trying to say is don't have an end of this story, and it'd be great if you contributed something, and they made it happen themselves, so good on them.
Laura Bricker, this podcast starts out with a pretty extraordinary scene. We have a boat captain calling the cops because there's a cop who's now raided his boat. What did you think of this opener to the show and this guy that we first get to hear about, George Santos? Not that George Santos, this George Santos.
Well, this was great. This is one, as you're listening to it, I don't know about you guys, but I could like see it in my head as they were describing it. I'm like envisioning like this dark dock and this guy just rifling through this boat, and nobody is going to believe that a cop is doing this. And the cop's just like, oh yeah, it's something from like a CI or whatever. And right from the start, you're like, something's off here. But again, when people speak up against police, especially people that are CIs who are already compromised because they're in the criminal justice system, it's so hard to get anybody to believe you. And hearing from this cop, everybody knew about this cop. They're like, oh yeah, that's the guy that likes pills. He just comes up to you. He's like, hey, you got some pills? Hey, you got some pills?
Is it Rex Hoyerman? It's like that kind of situation. Yeah.
It's like an open secret. And it's not even a secret because everybody knows, but this is just the culture within that world. And it's like the people that are trying to voice something, like nothing is going to change. But the scene of this guy just going through the boat. And I thought it was interesting because the police department wouldn't comment, but now they have all these comments on their website. In reaction to this part, they're like, it's important to note that much of the Boston Globe's reporting is based on interviews with questionable or unnamed sources or convicted criminals. And I'm like, again, so you're totally trying to diminish the value of what these people have to say, even though they were fucking right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's gaslight them some more.
It's like, go take a leap, guys.
Yeah.
So, Toby, we hear from this boat captain who has had many run-ins with Santos. He's been pulled over by him. He's been shaken down. Santos stole his wife's ADHD medication from his car. But his corruption goes way beyond that, obviously. And it's not clear what he's doing with the pills that he takes. My guess is he's probably selling them, but it's, because he's apparently his drug test came back clean. But what do you think of this guy, Santos?
I can't believe he got elected to Congress after this crookedness.
The other George Santos.
Oh, this George Santos. Yeah, I mean, he just seems like kind of a classic bad cop in some ways, in that he's shaking people down. He's using confidential informant, in quotes, as an excuse to do a bunch of shady stuff. And at the same time, he's got this great clearance rate. Like, he's making a lot of arrests and things like that. So you think the tendency would be to overlook some of these like transgressions just because he's so effective. And then I guess as you go along, you kind of find out that, in fact, according to the podcast, there's quite a bit of corruption within the department as a whole, going right up to the top. And then it becomes even more understandable why he's kind of has this like really long leash as to what he's allowed to do. And then when sort of the whistle is blown on him, he just kind of retires. He just kind of leaves, no harm done. And the cop who pointed the finger at him is the one who gets the retaliation, and the FBI won't step in to help. So, it feels like such a stereotypical, cynical look at a small city corrupt police department. But, that's what happened.
Yeah, when you're a cop and your street name translates to Officer Pills, probably a good sign that you're probably not a great cop. But I'm wondering, guys, what do you think is scarier? That a guy with a gun starts rifling through your fishing vessel looking for drugs, that he might be a fake cop? Or that he might be a real cop?
Yeah. They knew he was a real cop for sure, even though they didn't quite indicate that on the 911 call. It was really interesting.
But also, like, when you get dispatched to that call and you already think you know who that is.
Yeah, it's not a good sign.
I mean, that's that's one bad cop.
No one will ever rifle through your vessel if you join us on Patreon.
Oh, maybe I want someone to rifle through my vessel.
Yeah, I was about to say, is that bad or good?
No, it's great. No one will ever rifle through your vessel. And we are in the business section, are we not, Kevin?
But rifling through your vessel sounds like a euphemism for something.
Yeah, it does.
Well, we don't have that level on Patreon, but go to patreon.com/partners in crime media, and you can get all sorts of exclusive podcasts. We have the Crime Writers on After Show, Toby Ball's Deep Dive Book Club podcast, our advice show, Married with Podcast, and Rebecca Lavoie's Readathon.
Hell yeah.
Karen Read podcast. The trial by now is underway. And,
it's getting underway tomorrow.
Yeah.
It got underway 2 days ago.
Here's my question, Boston Globe. Are you finally going to cover this?
Yeah.
Snubs. Anyway, you do great investigative work, but maybe
the public corruption beat should look at this part of the state.
Yeah. Just saying. Other great things you can get are Laura Bricker's Leave It to Bricker podcast, and you also can get episodes early and ad-free. Just pick the level you want to support us at. Toby Ball's Deep Dive is going to be recording, and if you're a deep diver, you can watch that happen. And Toby, you just did the book Eden Undone. Can you tell us what the next book you're reading is?
I can tell you that. The next book is American Prison by Shane Bauer. I think it's about the private prison industry.
Nice.
I don't know. It's gotten a lot of people really like it. I talked to a couple of people who have started it, and they were very enthusiastic.
Now, one of the ways you can support this podcast is visiting our Amazon storefront. We have an actual store on Amazon, and you can see some of our favorite things that you might want to try out. Rebecca, what are this week's Amazon recommendations?
Well, Kevin, since we're getting a brand new linen closet in our brand new laundry room, I'm like, okay, this is going to be a new closet, right? And it's going to be all, and the only time your closet's ever super neat is when you first move in, or if they build a new closet. At least that's how it works for me. So I am so tired of seeing all of our sheets. We have like 2 or 3 sets of sheets for our bed. We've like 2 sets of sheets for every bed, just in a giant, weird, random pile. So I got these awesome sheet organizer boxes. See?
What?
Where you can just basically put your hardly folded sheets in these neat little boxes and then stack the boxes or put them on the shelf like books.
Oh.
And there's a little window at the end so you can see which set of sheets it is.
Oh.
Yeah, I got a 6-pack for like $30 on Amazon. By the way, I was getting ads for this kind of product on my Facebook, and they were really expensive. Get them on Amazon. They're very affordable.
Well, you're not going to stop getting those ads now. Toby also has our listener-inspired Toby Ball's deep cut recommendations. Toby, what are your recommendations?
This store to remain unlocked during business hours sign, adhesive decal sticker, 2 by 24 inches, pack of 5.
Oh.
So
how many doors do you
I was about to say, what kind of business is this?
You need for both sides. Why an odd number?
Yeah.
The door has 2 sides.
Well, yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions.
Sorry to insert logic in your.
But I
your
think the actual answers are probably not that interesting.
So, Toby, what's your second thing?
So, and again, this is another one that comes with the question: water wipes, adult care, sensitive body, and intimate hygiene wipes. 30 wipes, 1 pack. Extra large textured, 99.9% water-based for everyday personal uses. Why not just water your own wipes? I don't understand.
But this has extra large texture.
That's right.
For whatever that is.
You know what that's for.
What?
It's for your bum, probably, right?
Right, but they're just water. They're just wet wipes.
Yeah, so that's convenient. That's a lot of convenience
don't
there.
judge.
I'm
Don't
not
judge.
judging. There's
Don't
no judgment
judge.
there.
It's like a bidet in a box, Toby.
It's a bidet in a box.
There's an alternative to this, which is to get a dry wipe and just run under a tap.
No.
Which is also 99.9% water.
You can't do that when you need it, Toby.
Yeah.
Just saying.
All right.
It's for on the go.
Oh, it's for on the
When
go?
you gotta
for
go
like car?
on the go. Yeah.
For like car use and stuff?
Public bathroom.
We have no idea what these are being used for. They could be being
Camping.
used to clean a puppy. We don't know. And no
Clean
judgment.
a puppy?
It sounds like a
With,
great product.
with hygiene wipes?
Yeah.
Sure.
All right. Anyway, seems like a good product. I just had some questions.
Great recommendations. Also, Laura Bricker is chomping at the bit.
Champing at the bit.
Champing at the bit.
Yes.
Chafing at the seams. Whatever the hell. To give her own recommendation. What do you got?
I'm showing it to you all now. So I received 2 orders of these now. I have many of them from our listener, Bethany Everson Naw, who sent them to my cat. It is drink coaster, cat gifts for cat lovers, fun woven creative coasters, cute coffee coaster for home decor, tabletop, protect, kitchen. And the second one says the same thing. And it came to Rocky, my cat, and it said, Rocky, you need your own set. Because when I first got them, Rocky, my cat, was laying on the counter, rolling over these things.
Nice.
So I'm going to put these up on our Amazon shop because they're really cute.
That is really
coasters.
cute. I like that. Hey, one note about the Amazon purchases. Last week, I believe, we had that star-shaped meat masher thing.
Yeah.
And we were all like, why can't you just use a spoon? Yeah, Jeff Brumley bought that, guys.
I know.
We owe him
He
an
told me.
apology. Sorry, Jeff. Sorry. No judgment.
I talked to him in person about it. We worked it all out.
Okay.
It's all good.
And as I told him in the text message, no judgment for your one-use tool because I own a pineapple corer. So, you know, we all have our things.
Oh, so be sure to shop us first at Amazon.com/shop/Crime Writers On. Doesn't cost you a single nickel no matter what you do, but we earn commissions on qualified purchases.
Kevin.
Yeah.
Do we have any Patreon patron saints of the week this week?
Our Patreon patron saints are Lori Wernick and Joanne Tima Huffman.
Yeah.
Bless you.
Bless you guys. Thank you so much for joining us on Patreon. I encourage
Lori and Joanne are long time
They're
supporters.
wonderful.
Long
They're
time
stars. They're superstars.
Yeah.
You are all superstars who listen. And those of you who join us on Patreon, we so appreciate it. It helps us do our work and keep this show going. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Kevin, should I end the business section now?
Thus ends the business section.
Fade that music out. So, Kevin, who's the next sponsor for this fine program?
Oh, we're brought to you by HelloFresh.
HelloFresh.
Make deciding what's for dinner a lot easier with HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit. It's easy to find time to eat well with 50 wholesome, hassle-free meals to choose from each week delivered to your door. Plus, HelloFresh's new ready-made meals go from the fridge to your fork in just 3 minutes with all the same high-quality ingredients and restaurant-worthy flavor you can expect from HelloFresh.
Kevin, you know, there's a thing that people say about growing up, right? Growing up is just deciding what you're going to eat over and over and over again.
For
and
the rest of your life,
That's
yes.
hard, right?
Yes, it is very hard. Well, it can be hard, but it's It's easier for your family with HelloFresh because they put together great recipes and give you all. It's like they 3D printed these recipes.
Oh, wow.
They just come up and say, here's everything that you need. But sometimes, like, you don't even have enough time to get from one podcast recording to the next.
That's right.
I know a lot of people can relate to that situation.
Absolutely, much less decide what I'm going to eat later.
So these ready-made meals are fantastic. You pop them in the microwave and you've got some wonderful stuff to eat for your family right away.
So get up to 10 free meals and a free high-protein item for life at HelloFresh.com/HelloFreshPodcast.
HelloFresh Podcast.
One item per box with active subscription. Free meals applied as discount on the first box. New subscribers only. Varies by plan. That's up to 10 free HelloFresh meals. Just go to HelloFresh.com/HelloFreshPodcast.
HelloFresh Podcast.
The missing child is Lucia Blix, 9 years old.
Please, let her come back home safely.
Thursdays.
The kidnappers planned it meticulously.
If money is what it takes to get her back, we're going to pay it.
The secrets they hide.
You can't talk about this. You can't write about it.
Are the clues.
The mother's hiding something, I know it.
To find her.
Tell me where she is.
The Stolen Girl. New episodes Thursdays. Stream on Hulu.
So, Kevin, who's the next sponsor on the show?
Oh, we're brought to you by Quince.
Oh, Quince.
Yeah, are you getting ready for that spring travel season?
Yes.
Here's why you got to go to Quince. I've got 2 great reasons, all right?
Yeah.
So you want to treat yourself to luxurious upgrades. So you want Quince's high-quality travel essentials.
Mm-hmm.
You need them at a fair price. Things like the lightweight European linen styles for $30.
Kevin, you have that shirt.
I do, and I love it. It's easy to wash. It's super comfy. And in addition to buying all this great clothes to go on a trip, what are you going to put it in?
A suitcase?
You can get premium luggage options and stylish tote bags, all to carry it in. All Quince items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands because they partner directly with the top factories, cutting out the middleman, passing the savings on to you.
Listen, you want to go on vacation, and it is fun to bring new stuff because then you've never worn it before and you get to wear it in a different place. I love Quince so much.
For your next trip, treat yourself to the luxe upgrades that you deserve from Quince.
Go to quince.com/crime for 365-day returns plus free shipping on your order. That's QUINCE.com/crime to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/crime.
Crime.
So, Kevin, there's an interesting editorial choice made in this podcast, and that is to use super realistic sounding actors to play 2. I think there's at least 2 people, and they're being used for a reason, and they're very transparent about it. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I understand the use of actors here. Like, it wasn't for dramatic effect, like something to like sort of beef up lifeless documents. One, as they say, it's to protect the identities of the CIs. And you can understand that. And they're transparent about that, which is great. My complaint really has never been over the years with actors per se, but it's been with poor actors. And I'm looking at you, Yuba County 5. Guy having a, quote, heart attack and manslaughter. Yeah. Yeah, right. But like I said, I don't think these 2 actors, I don't think they were bad. I mean, I
think they worked at the paper, right? Isn't that what they said at the end?
Geez, did they?
They sounded incredible.
They were great. I would say that I totally believed off the top here where we have this panicked phone call.
This shitty sounding tape.
From an inmate, and I just, like, it was great. It was very convincing.
Are you all right?
Yeah, it's just have a lot going on. You're the only person I can get in contact with right now. I'm so stressed out. I'm just going through some stuff right now.
The only question that I wonder is whether Dugan's half of that conversation that we heard was taken from the original recordings and spliced together, or if he's like reenacting too. That would probably not be something I would be excited about hearing. But in any event, I thought that was great.
Do they have to make the prison tape so shitty, though, so that it was hard to understand? That was very realistic, by the way. But I was like, if this is recreated, maybe you could make it a little clearer for me, because I'm old.
Because you're old. This podcast is not for you, then.
Yeah. So, Laura, there is somebody in this podcast that I absolutely fell in love with, and that is Carly. a woman that we meet in the final episode who was having an affair with a cop behind her drug dealer boyfriend's back. And the cop was basically obsessed with her boyfriend, kept asking questions about him. She's like, are you in love with him? It's fine. But like, it turns out he said later that she was an informant, and she at this hearing was like, I'm not an informant. And my favorite line of the podcast is when the lawyer asks her, are you lying? And she says, I lie, cops lie. She basically is like, why am I any worse than these scumbags?
Because as you say in your story, you are in fact a person who lies.
Did I lie? Yes. Do your officers lie? Yes. Everybody lies.
What did you think of that story and Carly in particular?
When we got to her part and you hear that she was sort of what kicked this all off because she sent the email to the Globe that was like, I need help. Because this didn't just happen to her once. It happened to her twice. Mm-hmm. And I was just drawn into this story because we hear, like, whenever you ask about cops that are undercover, that work with CIs, and you're like, well, do they do drugs if they're undercover? And like, they'll never really give you a straight answer, but you kind of assume. But to hear that this cop basically had like a multi-year, I mean, it sounded like years the first time that she was having this sexual affair with this guy, and that she was really in a bad place, and he preyed upon that. But that then mysteriously, when her boyfriend gets arrested, she's like, what the fuck? And then he disappears. And then she has a new boyfriend. And then, oh, wait, he's back again. Her coming forward to tell that story, I felt like good on the Globe for giving her a voice, because a lot of people would just be like, whatever, she's a drug dealer's girlfriend, whatever, she's got all these problems, whatever, she's not credible. But she was credible. And what happened to her was criminal. And the fact that she was able to speak up and have her piece, I just really felt for her. I just felt like, number one, you got to get better choices in boyfriends and cops. But just also like, it was just, again, a portrait and a window into the people that you're dealing with when you are dealing with drug offenses, when you are dealing with it. You're dealing with vulnerable people that have not only mental health issues, but they have relationship challenges because most of them have been in a cycle of, multi-generational abuse or dysfunction, and they can't get out of it. So you can see how all of this happened. So I was really, really glad that they included her, because I just thought she was extremely compelling.
Yeah, she's also one of the only women voices in the whole podcast.
Yeah. But really, guys, who among us have not set up your romantic rival for an illegal arrest to get them off the street?
I would like to, but I haven't done that.
Yeah. No. So, Toby, we actually meet informants, Carly, of course, being the informant who didn't believe she was an informant because she was like, I'm not a snitch and I'm not doing that. I'm just sleeping with this guy. And then we have other kinds of informants in this podcast, too, not just the ones the cops are using necessarily, right?
Right. Well, there's several, including Rizzo, who's like part of his code is I'm not going to snitch. And he gets pressured, I think, by Oliveira himself at one point to become a snitch and declines to do it. But then again, put in a compromising situation, and the FBI wants him to snitch on Oliveira. And so that's sort of a twist on that, where he's not snitching on other drug dealers or he's snitching on cops.
He didn't snitch on him, though, remember? Because Oliveira came in and thanked him, and he was like, fuck
that's
you.
Right. That's right. Yeah.
Great
that's right.
tape,
He
by
decides
the way.
not to.
And he was like, hey, Simmons, you did the right thing. Thank you. And I turned to him and I said, go fuck yourself. Like, don't thank me. I didn't do anything for you. Don't thank me. That was like, I was pissed.
He was the guy who had the T-shirts, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, the 10-point T-shirts.
Yeah, the 10 questions to ask.
Would you wear that shirt, Toby?
Around my house, I would.
10 questions for New Bedford cops.
Yeah. Oh, man.
New at the Crime Writers on merch store.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
What are you doing besides hanging out at the donut shop and the pizza place?
Exactly. Yeah. So there's Carly, who we just talked about. There's Russ, who came up hard and was recruited by Oliveira, I think in his teens. Mm-hmm. They kind of become sort of a partnership in a way. It's a little bit different than the other ones. So anyway, I think that the whole point is that they're kind of giving you this sort of range of what a confidential informant is, how much coercion is involved, what the relationship is between the CI and the police who is running them. So I thought it was interesting. I mean, I sort of thought about the whole thing as like a 5-part newspaper series, sort of, where it's just like, next week, we're going to look at this. So it's not necessarily this through story that you're following, but it's like, we found this thing that's going on in this place and we're going to report on it from these different angles. And each week we'll give you a different angle on it.
It's kind of reminiscent of that New Folsom podcast, right? Was that the podcast where each episode was like a different take on like some sort of problem? and they just led really nicely into one another. Yeah. So Kevin, we've talked about Oliveira. We've been skirting around it. He is the police chief of the...
He's retired.
For now. He's retiring in May.
Yeah. Of the New Bedford police, and has been for quite some time. And we know, because there's documentation to prove it, that he is not a good guy. And this story now has been published. You want to talk about what's happened after that?
Well, I mean, I guess, as Laura alluded to, that, okay, Oliveira's shady as fuck, right? And I want to say I can't, and then on my notes, I put a line through it and said that I can believe just how hard the department and the city's pushing back on the reporting. And yeah, you said, casting it as the word of convicted felons and other unscrupulous people. It really sounds like a PR firm jumped in and helped them out. But, I mean, Oliveira's taken the New Bedford way out, which is retire with your benefits before they can charge you and just right off into the sunset. But I also love, like, when you hear Mayor John Mitchell on that local radio show and how that stupid host is just, like, enabling him and, like, giving him the answers. Okay, first of all, pair of douche nozzles, right? But your job is to investigate allegations like that and take them seriously if you're the mayor, not just spin the case because I mean, it's the fucking Boston Globe Spotlight team. It's not the supermarket penny saver or like a series from Parcast.
Yeah.
This is going to be pretty solid. And now the thing probably saving all of them, as we know now, that this new Department of Justice is no longer going to be investigating police departments.
That's right. Or civil rights cases.
Right. And most of those, investigations into police departments revolve around civil rights violations or whatnot. But, it's like you can wait it out if you want because nobody else is going to hold you accountable now either.
Right. Just one thing, Kevin, about that. So I read that website that they now have up on they have like a whole page on the New Bedford police page. And they're like, oh, the Boston Globe, they reached out to us 1 week before this was going to drop when the police chief was out of the country. And then you listen.
It's fucking long responses, yeah.
And you listen to the podcast where they're like, we've gone to his house. We've gone here. We've been trying to get in touch with him for 3 years. And then they're like, no, we haven't had any contact. And I'm like, okay, some people probably will believe that. But also... bullshit.
We heard the fucking phone call.
Yeah,
not just
bullshit,
a door knock.
Bullshit. And good for the police chief. He's going out of the country on a vacation because he's using up all his unused sick and overtime holiday pay that, he has to cash out when he retires. So
Pulitzer-winning investigative reporters always half-ass contacting the subject of their series.
Yeah. I'll tell you, and I'm sorry if folks are tired of hearing about it, but it reminds me so much of what's happening around the Karen Reed case. It really, really does. You've got a really shady local police department. You have the state police, although in this case, the state police, they were a good actor in at least one of the cases here. But then you have a public corruption investigation that seems to have abruptly ended. And that's what happened in the Karen Reed case. And it's just a similar web of just people keeping each other out of trouble. I mean, that's what it is. I mean, that's the Sandra Birchmore case. Matthew Farwell, a cop that everybody knew was abusing this young girl, and a lot of people suspected murdered her, and they did nothing until the FBI stepped in. They said it was a suicide when it was clearly a murder. This is that. I mean, this is like what's wrong with Massachusetts, Kevin? That's where you're from. What's wrong with that place?
No, it's not my part of Massachusetts.
You're saying Western Massachusetts is clean?
It's the part where we have the drug lab that just was making up shit. That's my part of the state.
Yeah. So, Toby, do you think police should be allowed to use confidential informants at all?
Yeah, I mean, I think you need to in some ways, but it just feels like there are zero safeguards. This whole like single cop relationship with the CI and nobody overseeing it. I mean, I think it's impossible to cut out corruption completely, but there's got to be some way of ensuring that it doesn't become A, this exploitative relationship, B, people just making up confidential informants to justify doing whatever the fuck they feel like doing, or C, just, like the whole thing that went on with Carly. It just seems like if you have some oversight by somebody who's not completely immoral and corrupt, that doesn't happen. So this all sounds like, I guess, Pollyanna-ish or whatever, because then you have to ensure that the people overseeing things aren't corrupt, and their temptation for corruption probably becomes even greater when you're overseeing a bunch of people who can, through their own corruption, sort of enrich you. But it does feel as though there needs to be some kind of reform to a system as it's sort of depicted in this podcast. It's not a fault of the podcast, so they don't have any thoughts about that, but that's the kind of like bonus episode at the end. If they had some kind of roundtable or something with people talking about how other jurisdictions have handled this kind of thing, that would be pretty interesting.
Laura, do you remember the case where the CI's initials were MP, which stood for made up person?
Oh, yeah.
I don't, but I was going to say the flip side to this is that, I always check when I have cases where mysteriously, like, some person is a witness and they may not be listed as a CI, but they suddenly, they were in trouble, and then suddenly they have like this information against the person that you're working on behalf. So I always run people through, like, we have a system in New Hampshire, you can pull up cases online and look at cases. These are the people that when you pull them up will have tons of drug cases that are all dropped. And those are the people that get into being a CI to get out of their own stuff, and sometimes offer information that might not necessarily be true to save their own ass. So
Jay
there
Wild,
is,
anyone?
What? Yeah, so there is that side to it. For me, it's like a little thrill when I'm like, oh, this person seems like a bullshit witness. And then I'm like, why do they have like 10 drug cases in the last 4 years that have all been dropped? I'm like, okay, because they're working with the police.
Yeah. I'm just going to say this. Laura should not learn about the Karen Reed case. She'll have to quit her job. She's going to be so angry. All right.
I started watching it on Max, but I have been diverted by some crazy fantasy show on Amazon. So
The missing child is Lucia Blix, 9 years old.
Please, let her come back home safely.
Thursdays.
The kidnappers planned it meticulously.
If money is what it takes to get her back, we're going to pay it.
The secrets they hide.
You can't talk about this. You can't write about it.
Are the clues.
The mother's hiding something, I know it.
To find her.
Tell me where she is.
The Stolen Girl. New episodes Thursdays. Stream on Hulu.
Everybody sleeps, but no two people sleep alike. At Coop Sleep Goods, we celebrate the way you sleep differently. We believe everyone deserves a great night's sleep with their own pillow. And the adjustable, customizable Coop pillow makes it easy. Whether you're a side sleeper, back sleeper, or even a starfish, we've got the perfect pillow for you. Crafted with our innovative memory foam and microfiber fill, our hypoallergenic pillows adjust to you, not the other way around. Just tailor the fill for the perfect fit. Add some in, take some out, until your pillow's just right for you. See why luxury hotels and spas worldwide feature Coop Sleep Goods and why we have tens of thousands of 5-star reviews. With our 100-night risk-free trial, you've got nothing to lose, except those sleepless nights. Get 25% off your first order when you visit coopsleepgoods.com/comedy. That's COOP sleepgoods.com/comedy.
At Strayer University, we help students like you go from, is it possible, to anything is possible by offering access to up to 10 no-cost gen ed courses, so you can reach your goals affordably and fast. Visit strayer.edu to learn more. No-cost gen eds provided by Strayer University affiliate Sophia. Eligibility rules apply. Connect with us for details. Strayer University is certified to operate in Virginia by Chev and has many campuses, including at 2121 15th Street North in Arlington, Virginia.
Okay, let's talk about Claude, the if you know AI assistant that's got everyone buzzing. Claude is like having a super smart, emotionally intelligent buddy in your pocket that responds like a real person would. Claude can help with just about anything, whether you need advice, inspiration, or even someone to help craft that perfect text to your crush. Claude can switch from being your life coach to your personal stylist to your side hustle strategist all in one conversation. Head to Claude.com, that's CLAUDE.com, and start chatting with Claude for free.
All right, let's do what we do. Let's let our listeners know, should they check out Spotlight Snitch City? Laura Bricker, thumbs up or thumbs down for this podcast?
Yeah, this is a big thumbs up for me. I think this is one of my favorite podcasts that we have listened to so far this year. I love investigative journalism podcasts that come from actual investigative journalistic outlets that have a real track record of chops for doing this kind of work. And, you know, this is in New England, so we're all familiar with the area. It feels sort of local to listen to it, but it's also not the kind of story that we've heard over and over again with regard to like an unsolved case or something. It's something where if you want to do some rage walking and hear about corrupt police and people that are within the criminal justice system or within that world that are being taken advantage of by people like that, listen to this podcast. I loved this podcast. I actually went back and started re-listening to it, and I just felt like it's bringing something to light. I'm curious what will happen next. I'm a little bit discouraged that maybe something won't happen because of the state of the world. But at the same time, people were given a voice in this that had not been given a voice. And so kudos to the Globe for that.
Toby Ball, thumbs up or thumbs down for Spotlight Snitch City?
Yeah, I thought this was really good. Unlike a lot of the podcasts we listen to, there's not like sort of a single story or a single person that you follow all the way through. Instead, there's an issue that's been identified around confidential informants, particularly in New Bedford, Massachusetts. And it just kind of takes a look at that issue from a bunch of different angles. The reporting is excellent. Another thing that I liked about this is that sometimes these newspaper reported podcasts, I don't feel like really embrace the podcasting aspect of making the podcast. And in this case, I think they do a really good job with that stuff. And I think part of it is their team has several like very experienced podcasters who've made great podcasts in the past. You don't feel like you're listening to sort of a dry newspaper investigative podcast. Sounds really good. Yeah, so I'm a big thumbs up. I thought this was excellent.
Kevin, where do your thumbs land for Spotlight Snitch City?
My thumbs are big up. I mean, just simply to say you got to listen to it. You got to listen to it, or better yet, you've got to watch it. One thing I didn't mention in the main podcast review was their YouTube visualization. I'm like listening to the credits. I'm like, why are there so many art directors and visualization people? What is this all about? If you've just taken notice of like the cover art or the episode art, that style, the YouTube version is all the audio, but it's supplemented by these different it's very kind of Ken Burns, where it's not a cartoon, but they take these these great illustrations and sort of pan and put certain things over it and some photographs. Anyway, it's just that's unique, and that is definitely worth checking out if you're not going to listen to it on the run. Another fantastic podcast from the Globe. The bronze medal, this one gets because it's got to go up against Gladiator and Murder in Boston, but still going to very likely be a top 10 for the year. I think it's a real proof of concept that having seasoned journalists and a top-notch team makes for a superior podcast, right? It is way easier to make a newspaper reporter sound like a podcaster than having some of these podcasters who cosplay as journalists, right? This is just great, and I can't wait for even more investigative reporting from the Spotlight team in this medium.
Yeah, me too. This is a huge thumbs up for me. Kudos to Kristen Nelson, Max Green, the whole team at the Globe who put this together. It has many of the beats of some of our favorite podcasts of all time. It sounds fantastic. The only thing I didn't like about this podcast was the theme song. But I will say, if they had taken the music that was under the end credits for the last episode and made that the theme song, it would have been a perfect podcast.
And they're taking that note right now.
Yeah, I really didn't like the theme song. It was a little discordant, and you couldn't really, his voice didn't really punch over it. You know what I mean? And it's not a mixing issue. It was because it was guitars.
What the fuck are you even talking about?
It's the only thing listen, if this is the only thing I didn't like about the podcast, we're doing fine. We're doing totally fine. The Snitch City, great podcast. I really, really hope that Spotlight : is the beginning of a many, many, many season podcast, because I think that if this is the example of the work they're going to do, sort of like Murder in Boston and then this, we're in for a treat if we get years and years of this. So yeah, huge thumbs up for me for Spotlight, Snitch City. All right, Laura Bricker, I have to ask before we end the show, do we have a cat of the week this week?
This cat of the week comes to us from Sarah McNally. It was a picture that caught my eye in our official Crime Writers on Facebook discussion group. Sarah submits her cat Willow for cat of the week. Willow ate a ball of yarn like it was a bowl of spaghetti and ended up in life-saving emergency surgery. I now no longer crochet. If anyone has any non-yarn cozy hobby suggestions, let me know.
Paint by numbers.
A lovely picture of Willow who has a cone on her head and has a beautiful little hot pink, medical tape around her leg where she probably had her IV during her emergency surgery.
And a new scarf.
Yeah, and a new scarf. So there you go, Willow.
Wow.
Do you call that cat knit?
Oh, yes. So, Sarah, I'm glad she lived through that because I was always afraid that my fat cat was going to eat ribbons at Christmas time. So I feel your pain.
Yeah, I'll tell you a story about that in the after show. Laura Bricker, if folks want to reach out to you online, how can they find you there?
You can find me at Laura Bricker on Blue Sky and Instagram.
What about you, Toby? How can you be found online?
At Toby Ball and H.
And Kevin, what about you?
Everywhere at Kevin P. Flynn.
You can follow me everywhere, Instagram, Blue Sky, and Twitter at Reb Lavoie. You can find the show everywhere at Crime Writers On. I encourage you to check out our TikTok. Kevin makes these really funny videos of outtakes and all of our reviews there, and it's a pretty fun TikTok. There's also some readathon stuff there. It's pretty good. Get episodes early and ad-free at patreon.com/Partners in Crime Media. There you get all the other stuff we make. The After Show, Married with Podcast, Laura Bricker's Leave It to Bricker podcast, and Toby Ball's Deep Dive Book Club podcast. Our theme song was composed and performed by Ty Gibbons, and our editor is the terrific Livy Burdett. The EP of this show is Kevin Flynn. This show was recorded in Studio C, the closet in our New Hampshire basement, where we also justify our actions by blaming people who don't actually exist.
It was MP.
All the time.
Yeah.
On behalf of all the crime writers, thanks so much for listening. We will catch you later.
You know what I did?
What'd you do?
I took some Afrin.
Toby, when did you get sick?
I get for whatever reason, I get stuffed up in here when I don't know if I'm allergic to this thing that's on my mic, because when I'm just working, it's not like that. But as soon as I start talking on mic, it starts to flow. But I took this Afrin, and now it just feels like it's like somebody turned on a water tap in my nose. So instead of just being kind of stuffed up, it just feels like just anyway. So the question was, what do I think about George Santos?
In crime media.
At Strayer University, we help students like you go from will I to why not. For over 130 years, we've been innovating higher education to make it more affordable, accessible, and attainable, so you can reach your goals. Go from thinking, can I, to yes, I can, and keep striving. Visit strayer.edu to learn more. Strayer University is certified to operate in Virginia by Chev and has many campuses, including at 2121 15th Street North in Arlington, Virginia.